April 8th, 1943, 22:47 hours. High above the darkened fields of southern England, the whine of Merlin engines pierces the night like a predator's call. You're strapped into the cockpit of a Messerschmitt Bf 109, Oberleutnant Erich Hartmann at the controls, his gloved hands steady on the stick as the fighter climbs through layers of cloud. The air is bitter cold, seeping through the canopy seals, and the only light comes from the faint glow of instruments and the distant flicker of searchlights probing the sky over occupied France. Hartmann's squadron, Jagdgeschwader 52, streaks toward the channel on a routine intercept patrol. Radio chatter crackles in his headset, terse reports of incoming RAF bombers. But tonight, something unusual filters through the static. Whispers of a new British aircraft, dubbed the Mosquito, spotted on reconnaissance photos. Hartmann smirks behind his oxygen mask. A wooden toy, they call it, fragile as balsa, unfit for the fury of dogfights against steel-clad German fighters. March 20th, 1943, 0112 hours. Over the Ruhr Valley, the heart of Germany's industrial might, flak bursts bloom like deadly flowers in the black sky. You're in the wooden cockpit of Mosquito B Mark IV, DZ-367, call sign F for Freddy, piloted by Wing Commander Peter Pickard, a veteran with ice in his veins and a navigator's calm precision. The airframe vibrates softly around you, not the cold metal rattle of aluminum bombers, but the subtle flecks of laminated birch and balsa glued with casein resin that somehow holds against 400-mile-an-hour winds. Below, the glowing furnaces of Essen pulse through cloud gaps, and ahead, the first wave of Pathfinders has already dropped their target indicators, cascading red and green flares that drift lazily, marking the Krupp armaments works for the heavy Lancasters lumbering in behind. Pickard pushes the nose down, Merlin's howling as the Mosquito dives from 28,000 feet. No defensive turrets weigh her down. No gunners hunch over Browning machine guns. Speed is the only shield. German night fighters, twin-engine Messerschmitt Bf 110s and Junkers Ju-88s, equipped with Liechtenstein radar, scramble from bases at Venlo and Gilsarien. Their controllers vector them eagerly. Bandits at Angels 2-8, wooden ones, crackles the ground station, the term already laced with contempt. Hauptmann Ludwig Becker, one of the Luftwaffe's top night fighter aces with over 40 kills, throttles up his Bf 110 G4, confident. His radar operator locks onto the blip, faint, almost ghostly compared to the solid returns of 4-engine heavies. Easy meat. But as Becker closes, the Mosquito does something unforgivable. It accelerates. Pickard levels out at 5,000 feet, skimming the rooftops, then hauls back on the stick and climbs vertically, engines screaming without compressor stall. Becker's guns spit fire, 20mm cannons and 30mm Mk-108s, tracers stitching the night where the British aircraft had been a heartbeat earlier. Nothing. The wooden ghost is already 2,000 yards ahead and climbing faster than his heavy night fighter can follow. Becker breaks off, cursing into his mask. His radar operator stares at the empty screen. It just vanished. Back at Debriefton in RAF Whiten, Pickard and his navigator, Flight Lieutenant Alan Bryant, sip tea while intelligence officers lean in. The Mosquito has just completed a flawless marker run, dropping 500-pound target indicators dead on the aiming point, then evaded 3 separate intercept attempts. No damage, no scratches. The crew's report is matter of fact. Enemy night fighters unable to close within firing range despite favorable initial positioning. Word spreads quickly through Bomber Command. The skeptics, those who called it the freelance folly when de Havilland first proposed an unarmed bomber, fall silent. Across the channel, the frustration begins to fester. Adolf Galland demands answers from his staff. After-action reports pile up, Mosquitoes penetrating the Kammhuber line, the belt of radar-guided searchlights and night fighter boxes stretching from Denmark to France with impunity. Reconnaissance variants streak over Berlin at noon, photographing the Reichstag and Gestapo headquarters, while flak towers blaze away uselessly below. One pilot, Flight Lieutenant Harold Corbin, even buzzes the Tempelhof airfield at low level, waving cheekily at stunned ground crews before vanishing eastward at treetop height. Galland slams a fist on the table during a conference at Hall, Göring's lavish hunting lodge. "How does a plywood crate outrun our best fighters?" he demands. The answer comes grudgingly from his technical officers. The Mosquito's clean aerodynamic design, its low wing loading, and the sheer power of supercharged Merlins give it a speed advantage of nearly 50 miles per hour over the Bf-109G and FW-190A in level flight above 20,000 feet. Yet pride dies hard. Göring himself, the corpulent Reichsmarshal, dismisses the reports during a briefing. "If the English want to waste their wood on airplanes, let them. Our fighters will swat them like flies when the time comes." But the time is not coming. By mid-1943, No. 105 Squadron and No. 139 Squadron, the original Pathfinder units, are conducting nuisance raids designed specifically to draw night fighters away from the main force. A handful of Mosquitoes will roar over Berlin, drop a few bombs on symbolic targets, and race home, forcing the entire Nachtjagdgeschwader to scramble in futile pursuit. Fuel is burned, pilots are exhausted, and still the wooden interlopers return unscathed. One incident burns particularly deep. On the night of May 13, 1943, during a raid on the Zeiss Optical Works at Jena, a Mosquito piloted by squadron leader Leonard Cheshire, later to earn the Victoria Cross, is jumped by Major Prince Heinrich zu Sein-Wittgenstein, the Night Prince, with 68 confirmed kills. The German closes perfectly, guns armed. Cheshire spots the tracer and rolls inverted, diving straight down. The Wittgenstein follows, confident in his Ju-88's firepower. But the Mosquito pulls away in the dive, wooden wings holding firm at speeds exceeding 450 miles per hour indicated. The Prince breaks off, his aircraft shaking violently. He lands shaken, reporting to his commander, "It was like chasing smoke." The laughter in the mess halls grows quieter. Aces begin studying the intelligence photos more carefully, tracing the elegant lines of the Mosquito's fuselage with reluctant respect. Galland orders experimental up-engined FW-190s and even captured Mosquitoes tested at Rechlin, desperate to understand the enemy's secret. But the truth is dawning. This is no fragile novelty. And soon, the Mosquitoes will come not in ones and twos, but in waves, aimed straight at the heart of the Reich under moonlit skies that once belonged to the Luftwaffe alone. What happens when the hunters become the hunted over their own capital?
January 30th, 1944, 1955 hours. The frozen streets of Berlin lie under a thin blanket of snow, the Reich Chancellery's windows glowing faintly as Adolf Hitler marks the 11th anniversary of his seizure of power with a radio address. Above the capital, the sky is clear and moonlit, perfect conditions for the Nachtjagd. You're crouched in the observer's seat of a Junkers Ju-88C6 night fighter. Radar operator Oberfeld-Webel Paul Zorner scanning the Liechtenstein SN2 display for the telltale blips of incoming RAF bombers. Ground control at Dielen reports multiple contacts approaching from the west. A main force of heavy bombers heading for Brunswick, but detached from them, 4 fast intruders vectoring straight for the capital. Mosquitoes again, the controller warns, his voice tight. Zorner mutters under his breath, "The wooden pests." In the lead Mosquito, DZ-414 of No. 139 Squadron, Squadron Leader Edward Ted Sizemore throttles the twin Merlins to full power, the airframe humming around him, and Navigator Flight Lieutenant Reggie Babe Whitfield. Their mission tonight is pure provocation, a low-level spoof raid to celebrate Hitler's anniversary in the most insulting way possible. No heavy bombs, just 4 500-pounders fused for delay, enough to rattle windows and pride. Sizemore descends to 400 feet, skimming the North German plain, the wooden wings slicing through the frigid air without a tremor. Below, searchlight batteries snap on, cones of white light sweeping frantically as flak towers around the city awaken. The first shells burst far behind, predictors calibrated for slower, higher targets. On the ground, Berliners pause in their blackout shelters, hearing the unfamiliar high-pitched whine cutting through the night. It's not the deep thrum of Lancasters or Halifaxes. This is something sharper, faster. Then the first bombs whistle down, exploding near the Ministry of Propaganda on Wilhelmstrasse. Sirens wail. Goering's promised impregnable defenses scramble in chaos. Every available night fighter in the sector, over 40 Bf-110s and U-88s, climbs desperately toward the intruders. Major Prince Heinrich Zusein Wittgenstein, now commanding Nachtjagdgeschwader II, takes off personally from Leeuwarden, his crew eager for revenge after previous humiliations. But the mosquitoes are already dancing through the searchlights. Sizemore pulls up sharply over the Tiergarten, Chandel's hard left, then dives again toward Potsdamer Platz. Tracers from light flak streak past, but the wooden aircraft twists and rolls with an agility that defies its size. Whitfield calls out headings with calm precision using G navigation, guiding them toward the broadcasting center, where Hitler's speech is still transmitting live. A final stick of bombs tumbles away, detonating seconds later in open ground near the Anhalter Bahnhof, close enough to shake the Führer's voice on the airwaves. Berlin radio abruptly cuts to martial music. Wittgenstein closes on one of the raiders, his radar operator achieving a solid lock. Guns armed, he fires a long burst. The Mosquito, piloted by Wing Commander Bob Bram, another Pathfinder legend, simply rolls inverted and dives vertically toward the city streets, pulling out at rooftop height and accelerating away down a wide boulevard. The Prince follows, but his heavier U-88 mushes in the thick air, losing speed rapidly. By the time he recovers, the target is gone, vanished westward at over 360 miles per hour indicated. Wittgenstein lands furious, slamming his fist against the fuselage. That night, not a single Mosquito is lost. 4 aircraft, 8 crewmen have penetrated the most heavily defended city in Europe, dropped their loads, and escaped untouched. The next morning, Adolf Galland stands in Hermann Goering's opulent office at Karrenhall, the Reich Marshal purple with rage. "You assured me the capital was safe," Goering bellows, pounding the desk. "Now the Tommies buzz my headquarters like wasps while I speak to the nation." Gallant, usually unflappable, offers no excuses. The reports are damning. Average interception time too slow, climb rates inadequate, radar returns too weak on the wooden airframes. Goering demands solutions. More FW-190s converted to night fighting, experimental upward-firing Schräge Musik cannon installations, anything to catch the uncatchable. In the squadrons, the mockery has died completely. Pilots no longer joke about furniture in the sky. Instead, they speak in hushed, bitter tones of the Holzfliege, the wooden fly that stings and vanishes. Veterans like Hans Joachim Jobs, with over 50 night kills, admit privately that the Mosquito is the finest aircraft of the war. Gallant himself, testing a captured example at Rechlin in early 1944, emerges from the cockpit pale and silent. The performance is staggering. Smoother controls than the FW-190, better visibility, and acceleration that leaves German fighters standing. He reports directly to Goering. "If we had the Mosquito, the war in the air would look very different." Yet production cannot be matched. De Havilland factories at Hatfield and Leavesden churn out over 100 Mosquitoes a month, using dispersed woodworking shops immune to aluminum shortages. The Luftwaffe, strangled by bombing and resource drain, cannot replicate the design at scale. The wooden wonder becomes a symbol of Britain's resilience, built by piano makers, cabinet craftsmen, and coach builders, yet outfighting the products of Germany's vaunted engineering. And as 1944 dawns, the Pathfinders prepare for their greatest role yet, guiding 1,000 bomber streams to the Reich cities with surgical precision, while their own kind continue to torment the defenders under every full moon. But one raid, above all, will etch the Mosquito's legend into history, a daring daylight spectacular that forces even the Führer himself to look skyward in helpless fury.
January 30th, 1943. 11 hours precisely.
The heart of Berlin hums with orchestrated pomp, banners snapping in the crisp winter wind along Unter den Linden as crowds gather for the 10th anniversary of the Nazi regime's ascent. You're in the cockpit of Mosquito B Mark IV DZ-414, leading a formation of 3 from No. 105 Squadron. Squadron leader George Perry at the controls, his navigator scanning the route ahead through scattered cloud. The twin Merlins thunder at full boost, the wooden airframe slicing eastward at wave-top height over the North Sea, then skimming Dutch fields and German forests to evade radar. No escort, no guns, just speed, 380 miles per hour true, and the element of surprise. Perry pushes the stick forward, descending to 100 feet as the outskirts of the capital resolve ahead. The jagged silhouette of flak towers, the broad avenues radiating from the Brandenburg Gate. Ground controllers scramble frantically, FW-190s of Jagdgeschwader 26 lifting from nearby fields, but the Mosquitoes are already streaking toward the primary target, the Haus des Rundfunks, the sprawling broadcasting headquarters on Masurenallee, where Reich Marshal Hermann Göring is midway through his bombastic address to the nation. The timing is exquisite, calculated to the minute by RAF intelligence. As Göring's voice booms over the airwaves, extolling the invincibility of the Luftwaffe, the first bombs, 4 500-pounders with 11-second delays, tumble from Perry's Bay. They strike true, shattering the main studio complex in a cascade of debris and flame. Transmission cuts abruptly to stag, then martial music as engineers scramble. Göring's words die mid-sentence, silenced by wooden phantoms. The formation banks sharply, engines howling as light flak erupts in frantic bursts, too late, predictors thrown off by the low, blistering approach. Flight Lieutenant Peter McGeehan in the second aircraft and Flying Officer Tony Wickham in the third follow through, their sticks raining destruction on secondary structures. Tracers arc harmlessly astern, pursuing Focke-Wulfs close but cannot match the acceleration as the Mosquitoes throttle up and vanish westward, pulling away effortlessly. You feel the G-forces pin you back, the plywood fuselage flexing imperceptibly, holding firm where metal might buckle. Hours later, at 1500 hours, the insult deepens. 3 more Mosquitoes from No. 139 Squadron, led by pilots who have endured filthy weather over the continent, roar in for the afternoon wave, timed to coincide with Joseph Goebbels' rally at the Sportpalast. Again, the broadcasts falter amid explosions near key facilities, the propaganda minister's venomous rhetoric drowned by the Merlin's roar echoing through Berlin's streets. Civilians below stare skyward in stunned disbelief. Searchlights sweep uselessly in daylight. In the Reichsluftfahrtministerium, Göring rages, his face flushed beneath the braided cap. Impossible, he thunders to aides, pounding the map table. He had boasted publicly that no enemy bomber could reach Berlin in daylight without annihilation. Now, fragile wooden aircraft, mocked as toys, have penetrated the Reich's most vaunted defenses twice in one day, humiliating the Luftwaffe before the entire nation. Adolf Galland, summoned urgently, reviews the frantic intercept reports, fighters scrambled too late, radar blindsided by the low approach and faint returns. He tests a captured Mosquito later that year at Rechlin, emerging awestruck, its handling superior, speed untouchable. Privately, he confesses to colleagues, this is the aircraft Germany needed. The raids claim no heavy losses. Only 1 Mosquito from the afternoon wave falls to flak over the city, but the psychological blow is devastating. Special units like Jagdgeschwader 25 and 50 form hastily to hunt the Holzflieger, yet successes remain elusive. Göring fumes in conferences, the British build from wood what we cannot from aluminum. The laughter of 1942 is gone, in its place, grim determination laced with envy. From this day, the Mosquito owns the daylight skies when it chooses, its pathfinders carving precision paths for heavier brethren, its bombers striking symbols of Nazi power with impunity. Geoffrey de Havilland's vision, speed as invulnerability, has triumphed utterly. But the Wooden Wonder's legend grows bolder still, venturing into precision strikes that defy imagination, breaching walls and freeing the condemned under the noses of guards. How does a handful of mosquitoes shatter a fortress prison in daylight, turning despair into deliverance?
February 18th, 1944, 12:01 hours. Snow swirls across the frozen fields surrounding Amiens prison, the gray walls stark against the white landscape as German guards patrol the perimeter, rifles slung, oblivious to the low rumble approaching from the west. You're in the lead Mosquito FB Mk6 of No. 487 Squadron RNZAF, Wing Commander Irving Black Smith gripping the controls, his navigator Flight Lieutenant Barnes calling corrections over the intercom, while the twin Merlins roar at full throttle barely 50 feet above the snow-covered road. The formation, 3 Mosquitoes in tight echelon, skims treetops, wings rocking in the gusts, delayed action 500-pound bombs hung beneath, fused for 11 seconds to allow the aircraft to clear before detonation. The prison looms ahead, a grim fortress holding over 800 souls, including dozens of French resistance fighters facing imminent execution. The plan is surgical. First wave breaches the outer walls. Second wave shatters the inner buildings and guards' quarters. Group Captain Percy Charles Pickard, the legendary commander of No. 140 Wing, veteran of countless raids, star of the propaganda film Target for Tonight, circles overhead in his Mosquito to assess damage and signal the reserve squadron from No. 21 Squadron whether to press home or abort. Escorting Hawker Typhoons from numbers 174, 198, and 245 squadrons wheel high above, ready to engage any FW-190s that scramble from nearby Glissy Airfield. A lone PR Mosquito films every second, its camera capturing the impossible for posterity. Smith's section dives, the prison gate rushing up. At 12:03 hours, bombs release, precise, calculated drops that slam into the eastern wall. The aircraft pull up sharply, clearing the ramparts by inches as the delayed fuses count down. 11 seconds later, the explosions rip through concrete and steel, carving gaping holes where solid masonry once stood. Dust and snow billow skyward. Prisoners inside hear the thunder, feel the shockwaves jolt cell doors from their locks. Chaos erupts, shouts in French, the crack of rifles as guards recover from stunned surprise. Moments later, the second wave, No. 464 Squadron RAAF under Wing Commander Bob Irondale, sweeps in from the southeast. Their Mosquitoes, flown by men like Squadron Leader W.R.C. Sugden, hammer the main prison block and guards barracks at rooftop height. Bombs detonate with devastating accuracy, collapsing sections of the inner wall and barracks roof, killing dozens of German personnel, while the shockwaves reverberate through the cell blocks. You can almost taste the cordite in the freezing air as the wooden airframes flex and hold, engines screaming without falter. From the orbiting PR aircraft, the footage shows smoke rising, figures scrambling through breaches, resistance members and political prisoners bursting into the open fields, aided by waiting comrades who spirit them to safety in nearby villages. Pickard in Mosquito HX-922 lingers at 500 feet, pipe clenched between his teeth, assessing the swirling dust. He sees prisoners streaming out, 258 in total, including key figures like Raymond Vivant, and transmits the code. The reserves stand down. The mission succeeds beyond expectation, though the cost is heavy. 102 prisoners perish in the blasts or crossfire, 74 wounded, and many escapees later recaptured. Yet the Wooden Wonder has done what no other aircraft could, delivered precision devastation at treetop level, turning a Gestapo stronghold into a scene of desperate liberation. As the formation wheels for home, the Luftwaffe finally responds. FW-190s from Jagdgeschwader 26 pounce, diving through cloud. Typhoons engage fiercely, but one Mosquito falls victim. Pickard's aircraft, last over the target, takes a burst from Feldwebel Wilhelm Meyer. The tail shears away in a spray of splinters. The Mosquito spins earthward, crashing near St. Gratien. Pickard and his navigator, Flight Lieutenant John Broadley, perish in the wreckage. Another Mosquito is lost to flak, its pilot wounded but limping home on one engine.
The Typhoons claim their own toll, but the raiders pay dearly. 3 aircrew killed, others captured. In the aftermath, the Mosquito's legend solidifies. What began as mockery of a fragile novelty ends in awe. A wooden bomber, conceived in defiance of convention, has outflown interceptors, outrun radar, and executed the most audacious precision strike of the war, freeing resistance fighters on the eve of invasion, proving Geoffrey de Havilland's vision triumphant. From Berlin's humiliated skies to Amiens' shattered walls, the Mosquito carves its path through history, a wooden phantom that redefined aerial warfare. Yet its story does not end here. In the final months, it strikes deeper still, hunting V-weapons and Gestapo headquarters, ensuring the Reich's collapse under relentless, unerring blows. The Wooden Wonder's final triumph awaits, but for now, the skies over occupied Europe belong to it alone.